Hello everybody. So it is the Christmas season, so we are visiting some national cemeteries that have the Wreaths Across America laid on the graves. And we're starting at Florence National Cemetery in Florence, South Carolina, and then we're going to wrap it up at Beaufort National Cemetery in Beaufort, South Carolina. And both of them do an amazing job of having the Wreaths Across America. That is something that is laid usually the Saturday before Christmas, even though this year Christmas Eve is on a Saturday, so they laid them out on December 17th of this year. So we're going to visit both of them and show you the wreaths on the graves. It's just something that's really touching to see every single year. So I hope you enjoy it. Maybe they have a little plaque in the ground or something. Maybe they have a little plaque in the ground or something. It had something back there on that plaque too. That plaque back there, it had something on it. Can you stop for a second? Yeah, I can read it. I can read it. Okay, this talks about the Florence National Cemetery, and it says Florence Prison Stockade. In early September 1864, General William Texum Sherman's Union Army took Atlanta and came within striking range of the large Confederate prison in Andersonville, Georgia. The Confederate government responded to this threat by transferring many of the prisoners from Andersonville to Florence, South Carolina, over 300 miles to the northeast, where a new prison was hastily constructed by enslaved persons. The first Union prisoners arrived in mid-September. The Florence Stockade, located just south of here, was approximately 23 acres, bisected by a stream and enclosed by a tall fence constructed from logs set vertically in the ground. A high parapet around the outside of the fence gave the guards a vantage point over the prison, and a deep moat prevented escape by tunneling. Conditions were miserable in the open-air stockade. The prisoners had very little food and only such shelter as they could create for themselves, including hovels dug into the ground. Many died from disease, starvation, exposure, or wounds suffered prior to their capture. In late February 1865, the prison stockade was abandoned and the prisoners relocated to camps in North Carolina as a result of approaching Union forces. Over the course of nearly 6 months, 12,000 Union prisoners were held in the stockade, 2,802 of whom died. So the cemetery and trench graves. The Florence stockade casualties were buried in 16 trenches located approximately a quarter mile north of here. The bodies were buried without benefit of coffins and were simply marked with wooden stakes. Confederate officials also used another small piece of land nearby for burials. After the war, the office of the Quartermaster General located the graves of Union soldiers and established national cemeteries throughout the country. Florence National Cemetery was established in 1865 around the trench burials. Bodies from the other burial grounds from Darlington, Chesterfield, and Marion counties were reinterred into 2 new sections. Though the names of the Union dead buried in trenches were recorded, it was not possible to match names with graves. The wooden stakes that marked the burial locations were later replaced with 6 by 6 inch marble blocks. Today, the trenches are designated with upright markers inscribed with the number of individuals buried in each row. And that talks about the archaeological investigation. And I do have to say, I truly do love the Wreaths Across America. I think it is a wonderful tribute to everybody that has served and is buried in these cemeteries. It's just a beautiful thing that happens every year in mid-December on a Saturday. And yesterday, so today is actually December 18th, 2022 at the recording of the one in Florence. And they came out here yesterday on December 17th, 2022 and laid all of these wreaths. So it is so beautiful. me stop for a second so I can take a picture. That's pretty right there. These right here are unknown. So this explains it here. It says Civil War Union burials. On each side of this marker lie the remains of approximately 2,300 Union soldiers who died as prisoners in the Florence prison stockade between September 1864 and February 1865. The stockade was located across Cemetery Street on Stockade Road. Burials are in trenches indicated by stone markings at the end of each row showing the number of individuals placed there. And it says names of those in trench burials were lost after the war, but are being researched by the Old Darlington District Chapter South Carolina Genealogical Society. A current list of known casualties is located on a database in the Visitor Center for public reference. Signs on Stockade Road indicate the site of the Confederate stockade. This marker erected by Friends of the Florence Stockade, May 30th, 1998. So this talks about created national cemeteries. The authority to create military burial grounds came in an omnibus act of July 17, 1862. It directed the president to purchase land to be used as a national cemetery for the soldiers who shall die in the service of the country. 14 national cemeteries were established in 1862. When hostilities ended, a grim task began. In October 1865, Quartermaster General Montgomery C. Meigs directed officers to survey lands in the Civil War theater to find Union dead and plan to reinter them in new national cemeteries. Cemetery sites were chosen where troops were concentrated: camps, hospitals, battlefields, railroad hubs. By 1872, 74 national cemeteries and several soldiers' lots contained 305,492 remains. About 45% were unknown. Most cemeteries were less than 10 acres and layouts varied. In the act to establish and to protect national cemeteries on February 22, 1867, Congress funded new permanent walls or fences, grave markers, and lodges for cemetery superintendents. At first, only soldiers and sailors who died during the Civil War were buried in national cemeteries. In 1873, eligibility was expanded to all honorably discharged Union veterans, and Congress appropriated $1 million to mark the graves. Upright marble headstones honor individuals whose names were known. 6-inch square blocks mark unknowns. By 1873, military post cemeteries on the western frontier joined the National Cemetery System. The National Cemeteries Act of 1973 transferred 82 Army cemeteries, including 12 of the original 14, to what is now the National Cemetery Administration. And this says, Civil War Florence. When Atlanta fell to the Union Army in September 1864, General William T. Sherman began his march to the sea. Fearing the Union Army would free prisoners held in southern Georgia, Confederate authorities moved them. Some 10,000 Union prisoners of war were relocated to the unfinished Florence military prison in October. A 16-foot-tall log stockade enclosed the hospital tents and other simple structures. A swampy stream running through 23-acre prison provided the only source of water. During the 6 months the prison operated, more than 25% of the 12,000 prisoners died. The bodies were buried in one or two nearby cemeteries. Former prisoner Robert H. Kellogg recalled, the dead were piled one upon another until the wagon was filled. A party of prisoners was at work every day digging trenches where the bodies of the dead soldiers were to be laid. And this talks about the lone woman's grave. For decades, the only woman buried at this national cemetery was Florina Budwin, likely an alias. Purportedly married to a Union officer from Pennsylvania, Budwin disguised herself as a man in order to enlist. She and her husband were said to have been confined at Georgia's Andersonville prison, where he died. She was moved with other Union prisoners to Florence in fall 1864. When she fell ill, the camp doctor discovered her secret. Budwin was moved into quarters separate from the men. Sympathetic women of Florence gave her food and clothing. After recovering, she remained at the prison as a nurse. Budwin died in January 1865 and was buried here. Section D, grave 2480. Her story fascinated the public, and it appeared in newspapers nationwide for years. Okay, so we're hopping in for a minute so you'll know that what you just saw was the Florence National Cemetery decorated with the Wreaths Across America. So now we're heading to Beaufort National Cemetery to see that as well. So I'm combining both of them together, and it's just a beautiful thing to see every year. So what's up next is Beaufort.
The destination is on your left, Beaufort National Cemetery. Arrived.
priests put out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
It's a wonderful thing, though, that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So over here they have a grave site locator, and this is really interesting. So you can get cemetery information. If you want general information, this lets you know that it's open from 8 a.m. to sunset, and it tells you what hours they're open for the office and when they're closed and the phone number. So that's really interesting. Block that out of the way so see that. It's pretty cool. And you can also find the grave you need too. I do notice on this wall right here, they still have spaces available. We did notice this one from the road, so we thought it was really pretty because they have a Christmas tree on this one as well as the wreaths.
take that on around and then come back over here to get up at the red light.
Yep. I wonder why those over there is by themselves.
Huh?
Those over there. Oh, that's pretty. Hold on a second. Oh, that's pretty. I'll take a picture here. Oh, no, there has a big stone. Those back there, those are larger stones.
Might have been time period.
I don't know. Anybody behind you? You can let me out, I'll go look at them. So that stone is different than what the other ones are, but that is not in English, so I'm not quite sure what it says. And this stone back here is different as well. Right there is an unknown one. Person died in 1815 when he was 26 years old. And that says in memory of John F. Kennedy. And that's in memory right there. Can't read the name on that one. And that's in memory of Captain Nathan Packer. And they have some regular tombstones as well back here. And this is a baby right there. And there's another baby. And there's actually a lot of babies back here. So I'm going to guess on some of these that these are husband and wives sharing a grave, because I've noticed on a lot of them they say together again, and then on some of them they have somebody's name on the front and then somebody else's name on the back. So I'm guessing that's what that means. And that one has a beautiful saying on it. It says, "Grace was in all her steps, love in every gesture." I like that. And these little stones over here are different as well. I think I read in Florence that they're unknowns, I believe. And I know you can't smell the wreaths through the TV, but they smell amazing. They are definitely live.
See, some of them's got the person on the back side, and then they got a person on the front side. So the head's coming out, or buried on the same place.
I guess it is. So that says, "The muffled drum's sad roll has beat the soldier's last tattoo. No more on life's parade shall meet that brave and fallen few. On fame's eternal camping ground, their silent tents are spread, and glory guards with solemn round the bivouac of the dead." Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video for the Wreaths Across America at the Florence National Cemetery and the Beaufort National Cemetery. Now, I know that you heard the GPS refer to it as Beaufort National Cemetery. However, in South Carolina, it is pronounced Beaufort, as in the way beautiful is pronounced. So, that's the difference. If you're in North Carolina, it is Beaufort, but in South Carolina, it's Beaufort. So, according to wreathsacrossamerica.org, their mission is to remember our fallen U.S. veterans, honor those who serve, teach your children the value of freedom. So every year on National Wreaths Across America Day, which as I stated this year it was December 17th, 2022, their mission is to remember, honor, and teach, and it is carried out by coordinating wreath laying ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, as well as more than 3,400 additional locations in all 50 U.S. states at sea and abroad. And you can sponsor a wreath. All you have to do is go on the website and pick which cemetery you would like to sponsor. And I do believe that at Florence and in Beaufort, I do believe every single grave had a wreath on it.
Some of them had two.
Some of them did have two. I'm guessing that those are husband and wives. A lady I was talking to, I work with, her parents are buried at the National Cemetery in Florence. And she said that, I believe she said they buried them on top of each other, which I guess that would make sense. So, I don't know, but that's my guess. But I do believe that the wreaths are one of the most beautiful things you can see every year at Christmas time. It is a very touching gesture that is done, and I think it's a great way to honor the people that did serve the country. And I did see a lot of infants' graves out there whenever I was walking around in Beaufort, and they might have been up there in Florence as well, but I didn't get out and walk as much in Florence because it was getting dark the other night. So that's a reason I was able to spend more time at the Beaufort, because it is midday right now. But how did you enjoy both days of
It was good. It was good. And I'm glad that they do it to show the respect for the veterans.
Yes.
That's what I like to say.
So I'll go ahead and wrap up the video now. I do hope you truly enjoyed seeing it. And if you've never seen it in person, it's definitely something you need to get out and see, because it's just something that we enjoy going to look at every year. We have made an effort for the last few years, ever since we realized that the wreaths came out and when they came out, because we always saw pictures of them. We're like, oh, that's just so beautiful. But then I actually found out when they do lay them. So now we try to always make sure that we come see them every single year, because like I say, it is a very touching thing to see. So with that, we're going to wrap this one up and say Merry Christmas.
If you have not subscribed, please do. Like, subscribe. That's it. It don't cost you a penny.
It doesn't. And then you get to see things like this that maybe you wouldn't get to see normally. And I'm liking that look out there right now. That's really pretty. You get to see the water out there in Beaufort. And it's getting ready to disappear. So with that, I do hope you enjoyed watching. If you happen to be related to anybody that's buried out there, I know I didn't get to show all the graves, and I would have loved to show all the graves, but I'm pretty sure I would have spent all day out there trying to get every single grave on there. So
Merry Christmas.
yes, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if you don't watch anything else. And bye.